Welcome to The Route to Revenue, two entrepreneurs sharing the path to curbside cash flow. I'm Ben.
And I'm Mike. We're both founders of two successful recurring revenue businesses in the home services industry, and we've built our companies from startup to profitable and scalable operations.
This is the show for entrepreneurs serious about building sustainable home service businesses. Whether you're starting out, scaling up, or ready to move beyond trading time for money, we share proven strategies for creating predictable monthly revenue streams.
And while our expertise comes from the bin cleaning industry, the systems and principles we discuss work for any recurring revenue home service. Think lawn care, pest control, pool maintenance, and beyond.
Each episode, we break down real-world strategies for customer acquisition, retention, operational efficiency, and building systems that generate consistent income while you step back from daily operations.
Are you ready to transform your home service businesses from a demanding job into a profitable asset? This is The Route to Revenue.
Welcome to The Route to Revenue. I'm Ben Magee with Green Can Cleaner, and I'm here with Mike Walker with Spiffy Bin. And today we're going to talk about the power of reviews. So, Mike, tell us a little bit about why reviews are important and, why we should even worry about them.
Reviews, I think, are integral in any small business and any business, but certainly any small business. I always think of like when you're fishing, you put out a lot of different fishing poles, you catch more fish, right? So small businesses are going to be out there. So people are going to see your truck going by. You're going to hand out flyers. You're going to talk to neighbors. You're going to kiss babies. You're going to have a marketing spend. And I think one of the other things is people are going to use the reviews and any of the review softwares that are out there or Google reviews, and they're going to look at those and they're going to see how did your business interact with a real live human, living, breathing, and they paid money to use your service. How did they think? And I think they're critical. When you're first starting out, you're not going to have a lot of them, and that's okay. But I think as time goes on, there's going to be no choice between the guy with 5 reviews and if I'm looking at the next business and they have 987 reviews, and they're all 4.9%, 4.9 average. I mean, why would you choose the one with five reviews in that instance?
Well, and I mean, so here's what I'm going to say about this. And you and I talked about this a little bit earlier. Reviews are the new, neighbor recommendation. I mean, it used to be, and we talked about this. I just moved into a new house. We had a home built this year, and earlier this year we moved in, and my neighbors, I don't even see them now. I used to live in a neighborhood where I saw my neighbors all the time, and you were kind of talking about that. And, it used to be that if I was going to do something around the house, I would talk to my neighbor and say, hey, have you done any of this? Or I saw that they were doing it, and I'd ask, how did that go? And that's what reviews are today. The other thing that reviews do that I just want to get in there, they allow you to charge a little more for your service because people know that they're going to get a quality service. And so reviews will make you money, just the same as marketing or a CRM. So earlier you were telling me a little story, and I'm gonna kind of put you on the spot. You were telling me a story about, and this weekend you were kind of in an old neighborhood and stopped to see the neighbor. Let's talk about that. I want to hear that story again.
Yeah. So, Ben had to back us up a little bit. Ben had talked about the fence and how you used to meet people and talk to people over the fence and whatnot. And I was saying, I'm in my 3rd home now that we've owned. And I don't have the relationship. I'm sorry. So we were going back, my wife and I and my college roommate and his wife were going back to our old hometown and there was a school event that we were going to go see. And then I said, well, can we run by my neighborhood? And so we ran by the neighborhood, and, this was our first house. It's kind of like, your first, whatever, you have great memories of it. And, I said, well, maybe Sean, Sue and Mark are there. And so we pull up, and sure enough, his garage door is open. And if you know Mark, anytime his garage door is open, he's usually got a tool in his hand and he's checking his daughter's brakes or changing his oil or doing whatever. He's always in there. And it brought me back to a time when we lived there and I saw the garage door open. I'd grab a couple Labatt Blues because we're from Western New York, and I'd walk over, and, no sooner would I be in the door and I'd be like, "Hey, Mark, what are you doing?" He goes, "Hand me that 3/8 inch ratchet. And if you could." And then I said, "Well, I'll give you that and a beer." And he's like, "Oh, thank God." And so, and and then I'd be over there for 3 hours just chatting away about, about life and this and that and the other thing. And I think people used to do that a lot more. And now I go back to my current house and, it's a little harder because we're the second house in, but you don't have that, or we don't have that interaction. People are busy, they barely have time to wave, or they're on their phones texting as they drive by, or they're doing whatever. They're not in the moment anymore, it seems. And it's a little a little upsetting, or, disappointing, or what have you. You had mentioned, Ben, about kids, right? You're in a neighborhood with families. How often do you see the kids out riding bikes and different things like that? Times have certainly changed, haven't they?
Times have really changed. I mean, I was telling Mike earlier, I look out my office window and the house across the street, I see, the cars pull up, the garage opens, they go into the garage closes. I don't see them. And they've got some, fairly young kids that, I mean, I would think we'd be seeing bike riding and skateboards and roller skates, and I don't see them.
Yeah.
I know who they are. I mean, Lisa and I have this thing with a new neighbor. We take them a box of crumble cookies because we feel like, nobody
Oh,
gets mad at you when you show up with cookies.
I'm moving in. You got any house
Yeah.
still for sale near you? I'll move in
Yeah,
for
there's
those
a couple.
cookies.
Come on. We'll
All
find a place
right.
for you, Mike. So,
Yeah, exactly.
we meet the neighbors and know their names, but it is not the same as it used to be. I mean, I can
Wow.
remember we've got neighbors now, our next door neighbors, from the last neighborhood that we lived in, they still come and see us at this house, and we sit out back
Yeah.
and we talk and we have some snacks and just hang out. And that
Yeah,
just,
and I think
I'm sure that'll develop.
and what's interesting, and maybe it's just because we're two old guys, but it's almost like the people now, they're in their phones so much that when they read that Google review, they go, "Oh, well, John over here gave it a 5 stars, and he gave a great," everybody has their own little personal algorithm of how they react to reviews. Have you ever had any negative reviews? What did you do there? Like, how do you handle that if that's something that happened to you?
So it depends. So, recently, and you and I were talking about this, we've had an issue with our review software and the way that it integrates with our CRM. And
Mm.
so we've had a couple of negative reviews come in, 1-star reviews, because these people got a review request before they even had a service. And
Oh,
certainly
that's
not the way that
difficult
we
to
want things
review.
set up, and certainly not ideal. And if I'm honest, I don't blame them.
Sure.
Oh, I haven't even gotten a service and I'm getting a review request. Are you kidding me? Uh,
Right.
you know, I'd be the same way. And so, we've done a couple of things. Number one, we reach out to that customer and we say, "Hey, you know what? How can we make this right?" And we don't do it on the review at that point. We actually do it, face to face if we can. I mean, I've gone to people's homes that we've screwed up a service and, taken flowers and knocked on the
Okay.
door and said, "Hey, I'm here to apologize. You're right. We screwed up. And how
Right.
can we make this right?" Um, and I think I mean, some of those people have become our best customers because they know, okay, they're human. And so we do whatever it takes to make it right. The other thing that we do is we take negative reviews sometimes and we turn them into learning opportunities for our prospective customers, because everybody clicks and wants to see what the 1 and 2 and 3-star reviews are. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
know I do it. I want to see the ugly, and I want to see how it was handled. And so, sometimes we use those, and I've got a couple of reviews that are there from that I can't get a hold of the people. They're the ones that I just mentioned, and they're not going to get taken down. And so I actually am crafting responses that say, you know what, yes, we messed up, we had a problem, and that's on us. But one of the reviews talks about we accept payment in advance for a one-time service for an on-demand cleaning, but our recurring customers we don't. And so I'm going to use it as an opportunity to pitch the difference between an on-demand cleaning and a recurring cleaning.
Hmm.
And I think that you just need to look for, okay, how can we educate the person that's reading this review as to, okay, here's how you can have a better experience, and here's how we offer a better quality service. Does that make sense, Mike?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I think there's opportunities for you both to learn, for you to learn. There's opportunities to inform in the future of future guests, so their clients rather, so you don't run into those situations. I found in the past, obviously you get on the phone and you solve the situation, is the best way. Other times they don't
Absolutely.
answer, they're not answering or whatever, and maybe you do have to do it over the phone, or over the Google review site. But I think having a reason perhaps, or if you just screwed up, you just screwed up. But,
Yeah,
I will say sometimes the customer isn't always right, or, it's not exactly the process that they want. And that's okay, right? I mean, they have the right to do business with people they want done a certain way, but we can't make our business mold to 4,000 people either. So there's a little bit of difficulties there, I think. But yeah, we're quick to respond to the negatives. I don't respond as fast to the positives, which is unfortunate because we've got 900 and something great reviews. And what I'll do is I'll usually do a block of 50 at a time or something like that. But the beauty is that I have that many to do. But I think responding to good and bad are critical, and it also lets the customer know, okay, they messed up. What did they do? How did they fix it? And I think that's super important. Um, and so that's what we've done as well. Um, as far as getting the reviews, what systems do you have in place for that? Because you're up there
so
too, right? I just looked. We're at 915. I think you were at like 1,400. No,
we're we're coming up, and I haven't looked today, but right around 1,500 on Google.
nice.
And so what we do, and it's helped a ton, is we use a program. It's called Nice Job. I think you use it as well, don't you?
I do. Yeah.
And
Yep.
and it integrates right into our CRM, and so it sends, in a perfect world, when a visit is completed or a job is completed, it sends a request for a review and follows up on it for us automatically. And but I think we set the stage for reviews long before we get there. Um, our onboarding process, we rather than having the whole thing be automated, we let people know that they've got, as an example, Kiera is texting them and or calling them and saying, okay, let's get you scheduled, let's get your cans clean. We're in your neighborhood this day. Here's how we're going to set this up, and here's the what you need to do so that we can perform this service, and here's our end of it. And to have someone clarifying those points, I think, is a big deal, because in today's day and age everything is automated. And
Yep.
to just take a little bit of a step back and not have a completely automated process, although our process is very automated, to have it customer facing, looking like maybe it's not as automated, I think, is a really good thing. And it sets the stage for an, you know, some of my favorite reviews are the ones that say, "Oh, Ben came and cleaned our cans, and I haven't ever been to their house." um, and that
Yeah,
tells me
that is
that
pretty cool.
my systems and processes are working, and that they see us as people. And I think that that's the other thing. And you know, we need, rather than being a business, to be a person. And do you have customers that look at you and they look at Spiffy, but they actually see Mike Walker?
Oh yeah, all the time. My favorite ones, you mentioned that one, your favorite one being the Ben cleaned them and you weren't even anywhere there. My favorite now are Mike and team, or Mike and the team, or
Right.
I really like when they point out different pieces of the business. So, a lot of the reviews, and I welcome you to go look at both of our reviews, right? But one of the most recent ones I saw was, that the scheduling was easy. The communication was top notch. I love seeing that, because in this home service
Absolutely.
business, nobody communicates, it seems. It's crazy. And just doing some of the simple things will set you heads and tails above that. There was a time, my family and I like to cruise, and we were out on a cruise in the middle of the Caribbean, and this kid, I don't know, he was probably 7 or 8. And as a side note, Spiffy Ben ranks really high in the anywhere from 3 to 7 demographic. They love Spiffy Ben, right? And we've got the
Yeah, they
machines, we've
do,
got the
don't they?
garbage truck, whatever. So
Yep.
this kid's looking at me, and again, I'm in the middle of the Caribbean, and then he goes over to his mom, and I'm not really paying attention at this point. And then the mom comes over. She goes, "Are you Mike?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Like, "Who are you?" And she's like,
Right.
"Do you own Spiffy Ben?" And I'm like, "I do." And she goes, "Oh, we're her name was her name is," and she goes, I'm," and I said, "Oh, on Stillwood, or what? Oh shoot, I shouldn't. We got to cut that. Can we cut that? Um, on such and such a street."
Cut.
And she's like, so you might hear a beep. I'm not sure how good our post production is, but I go, "Yeah, on such and such a street." And
Miller's
she
amazing.
says,
He'll be okay.
"Yeah." And she's like, "Oh my gosh." And I said, "Your husband's this," because he's a sheriff and different things like that. And she's like, "Oh my gosh." And, granted, that was a little while ago. We were 3 years in, but you grow to love these clients, and these clients grow to love you. And the kids, you spend a little bit of time with the kids, like we'll always, if the kids are around, I put the remote around their neck and they run the machines up and down. I mean, and I don't do that for a review. I don't do that to have
No.
them refer us. There's no ulterior motive, but what it does do is it creates, them loving the company. And I'll tell you, and the reason I mentioned this name is because we did have a flub up, and it was with this woman, which is crazy. Just happened yesterday. I didn't even tell you this, Ben. She she emailed and said, "Hey, we've been using you for a while. You only did 2 bins." Well, turns out that in August, she had turned to 3 bins. We did 3 bins. And then in September, I don't know what happened, but when it got changed, it just said service bins. And we don't even have that as a job. And then in October, so we only did 2 bins because the service guy, the tech, knew it was 2 bins because he'd been doing the routes for 3 years. And then this month, the same thing happened. And so she's like, "I don't know what happened, but I have to clean my bins. I'm not happy, blah, 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 blah." Well, it gave us an opportunity to look at it, fix it. I sent the guy right over. So it was fixed within 27 minutes, I think, of when she had emailed me. He happened to still be in the area. And, now she's back. She's good. Everything's happy. So, you don't do things for the review, but you hope that your processes get you those reviews. And I think that's what we're finding in our businesses.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for that. Those, I think that having a customer, obviously, you never want a customer to have a bad experience, but I think that when they do have a bad experience, if you go out and fix it immediately, then
Mhm.
you turn that customer around, and a lot of times they become raving fans. And
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
there's a lot of times where, something gets escalated to a point where I'm involved, and I'm actually happy about that because it gives us an opportunity to turn that customer into a raving fan. And a lot of times they're going to sing from the rooftops, which is where reviews come in as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And
so
I know, like,
yeah,
when oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was actually just gonna go ahead because I was gonna ask you a question. So go ahead and say what you were gonna
Well,
say, and
I was
then
saying, so you mentioned nice job, and like you mentioned, I use it as well, and you use it. But there are ways, like I don't want necessarily people listening to think they got to buy this $60 service and this $300 service and
nope,
this that, because we're not in the business to nickel and dime, or we're not in that business anyways. We don't get anything for anything anyways. But ultimately, what there's ways to do workarounds, right? In one of our episodes, we were talking about our CRM, the customer relationship manager. Well, there are ways in the systems that you can come up with that are creative and crafty, and yeah, they take a little bit to figure out. But I wanted to have the customer or the client get an email from me to say, hey, would you kindly go to this review software or the Google reviews and go ahead and give us a quick review. But
right,
I didn't want to have to do that every time. In the beginning, it wasn't maybe horrible because we didn't have that many customers. As things got busier, we did get a little bit more difficult, but I wanted it to be automated as best as possible. And I didn't want to spend any money for it. So I would create a job that when the job was concluded or finished, they would get an email. And in that email, all I did is just went into the back office of the CRM, and I created a message that said, hey, thanks so much for using Spiffy Bin. We would appreciate it if you would review us, and here's the links. You got to make it easy. If you're doing something like
yep,
this, give them the full link. Don't say go to Google, click on this, just give them a link.
yep.
Or a Yelp or a Facebook. I gave them two. I gave them Facebook or Yelp because those are the two I wanted to focus on. I'm sorry, Facebook or Google, because those are the two I wanted to focus on. And you make it simple and easy. And that worked a lot. I mean, that got me from, 15 or 20, probably up to about 300 probably. And then
Right.
I added nice job, and that got us up to the, 900 on Google and probably 200 or 300 on Facebook. So there are benefits to using a company that does it, because they can use SMS, they can use, email, they can even send it out, 6 months or a year later, where, normally with the way I did my workaround, they wouldn't have gotten that. So there's pluses and minuses to everything, but, be creative, be crafty, save yourself a few bucks, but still want to get the job done, getting that review.
Absolutely. So, how do reviews impact growth and help your business?
Well, I think they help many different ways. I think, ultimately, if I'm Joe customer and I'm looking at two different, I find this business, most likely they found us, right? Because I think,
Yeah.
I don't know much about Google, but I think they take into effect reviews and your website and interactions and different things like that. And they give you some SEO on that, search engine optimization. But I think more, equally important, if they just see the truck going by and what the hell's Biffy been? And they clickety clack in. Well, the first option I think is our website, and over on the right hand side is the Google part that says, the reviews. I think if you see 915, you're feeling pretty comfortable that they do a good job. And we don't get to that by buying them. I guess there are companies out there that you can buy them and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I've never done that. Never interested in that. But I think when given the choice between a 900 review company and 5, you're probably going to go 900. That's just the way I see it. So, and I think it has happened, and it's been very good. In order to do that, do you offer incentives? Do you, I know I've heard of some people go get a free clean if you do this, or, refer somebody and get that, or, maybe for your staff to try to get reviews. Do you give them an incentive if they get a review that names them, perhaps?
So, the first thing that I'll say is Google actually, and we've concentrated on Google, and if they find out that you're paying for reviews, you're done on Google. So it's just not even worth the chance. And so we don't offer an incentive on the customer level. Plus, I've always felt really weird about, oh, give me a review and I'll give you something else. You know what? We provide a great service, and I think that it's worth your time to give us a review. I don't mind asking that way, but I don't think that incentivizing the customer to give a review is, I don't think it's ethical, if I'm honest.
I
So I
agree.
love that about Google. Now, on the other side, if our guys get a Google review that mentions them by name, then number one, in our pre-shift, we mention it and we congratulate them and we give them all the kudos. Number two, we do have, because we're working on a pay for performance program right now, and so part of that is Google reviews. And so if they get a 5-star Google review that mentions them by name, then yeah, we are going to compensate them. We're not doing it currently, but it's one of the things in the works for us that we are going to move into and start doing.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
um, yeah.
I've
So
thought of, and I don't know if you've done it. You think of things pretty a little bit before I think of things often. Have you thought of doing a postcard that says, thanks for using Green Can Cleaner, appreciate a review, and maybe with a QR code to try to drive him, and then perhaps, have the driver write their name on it? 'Cause I thought that, I mean, yes, it's asking for a review, but I think it does a couple things, in my opinion. Hopefully people do it, right? They get an opportunity at that point to look at their bin and go, oh yeah, this is great. And if they have the QR, they can snap and go. But then secondly, I think it gives a little bit more of accountability towards the driver. If they know they got to leave this card behind, are they going to make sure that they wipe the bottom a little bit more? Are they going to, I don't know.
yeah. So 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 me, I actually haven't ever had an original idea, I don't think. But I pay attention to what other people are doing, and I may improve on it, and I may implement it worse than they did. But I will say that there was a company in Vegas that was doing that. And what they were doing is they were telling the customer, if you leave a 5-star review, scan this code. If you leave a review, we'll give the driver $5, I think it was.
Mm,
And I thought that was a great idea.
hmm
And I haven't implemented that, but it's certainly on the list. Um,
Yeah.
Reviews are one of those things that, we've been doing all right gathering reviews. And so if it's not broke, don't fix it too, is another one of my
Fair.
things. So we
Well,
get a good percentage of people that give us reviews.
and we didn't have this in our pre-planning, but at what point are there too many reviews? Like, that's what I wonder too at this point. So I'm at 9 something, you're at 1,400 and something, or 1,500. Like, is there a point where there's too many, where you're like, okay, this is obnoxious. We don't, I don't need to spend the money I spend on Nice Job to keep getting them? Or do you think it's critical that you keep getting the new ones? Is that
So
important?
So my understanding is, and again, I'm not a Google expert. I'm not, this is a couple of business owners talking to each other and letting
Yeah.
people in on a conversation that we have had in the past multiple times. But what I would say is, I think having new and relevant reviews does two things. Number one, I think that, everything's getting so sophisticated. I think that the Google algorithm looks and says, oh, they don't have any new reviews. What's wrong?
Mm,
So I think it's important that we continue down that path. The other thing is, when I look at reviews, I actually do look at the dates. And
okay.
if I see a company that, like us, for instance, okay, you know what? By October of 25, they had 1,400 and something or 1,500 reviews. And man, they haven't gotten one. It's October of 26 and they haven't gotten one in 6 months. What's
Yeah,
happening? What's going on?
that's fair.
And so I almost think that it's one of those things that are necessary, and we just kind of, once you start, you kind of just have to keep going.
It's funny you mentioned that, because we recently stayed in a couple hotels when we were in my hometown, and when I was booking those hotels, I did look at the reviews, and I more importantly looked at the most recent ones, because that's kind of a barometer of how the company's doing at this time. And I really only
Right.
care how they're doing at this time. So if they're a 4.2, okay, that's great, but maybe they were 5s all the way until 2 months ago, and then they've, taken a
And then they'll get twos
whatever.
and threes.
Yeah. So that's interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, I
So,
think we've reached the end of our, you have anything else you're going to add? Or I think we've kind of
well,
reached the end of our talk on reviews.
I think we have. I was just going to say, one thing that is important, and we have an SOP on this, and you kind of talked about this. I think it is important to respond to your reviews and gives you an opportunity, because the reviews are really what, as we've kind of alluded to, the reviews are really kind of what tell the story of your business and what's happening today. So yeah, I think it's important.
I think I've got to put that on my list, because I read them all. Don't get me wrong. I read them all. I'm just not necessarily responding to them all. But the more I think about that, is they've taken time out of their day to send me, or to, the world through Google, information about my business. How dare I not respond to that? If it's even if it's good, right? Is it necessary? Probably not. But it's, they did their, they took time to do that. How, why do I not feel the need that it's just as important for me to go back and say, thanks so much, we appreciate it? And it, doesn't have to be, two paragraphs long, but
No,
but I think
no,
that's,
but a little common courtesy goes a long way, I think.
100%.
So, I'd just like to maybe put a little call to action out there for our listeners. I try and do something, each time, and I'm not perfect at it, but certainly I'm trying. So this week, what I'd like to do is, number one, if you have reviews, make sure you go and respond to them and show that courtesy to the person that's taken their time. Make sure that you respond to your reviews this week. The other thing that I'd like to challenge people to do, and this is something that I've started doing recently, is leave a review for your favorite local business. It actually makes a difference for them, and I'm sure that they'll be grateful. And it's great to put that out in the universe. So,
yeah, I agree. And I promise to respond to my reviews, Ben. I apologize.
Okay, I'm going to check up on you, Mike. Thanks everybody for listening. I hope you have a great week. We'll see you next week.
Been fun, Ben. Take care. Well, Ben, that's a wrap on another episode of The Route to Revenue. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you would hit like, subscribe, and leave us old guys a comment about what we did well. And if we did anything wrong, can it and keep it to yourself.
If today's strategy sparked some ideas for your business, don't keep them to yourself. Share this episode with a fellow entrepreneur who could benefit from these insights.
Remember, building a recurring revenue business, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. Take one actionable step from today's discussion and implement it in your business this week.
Want to connect with us between episodes? Find us on Facebook or at our website. We'd love to hear how you're applying these concepts in your own home service business.
And until next time, keep building those recurring revenue streams and stay on the route to revenue.
The route to revenue.
Nice, Ben.